2 o'clock, and before we knew, we were going live. So everybody that wants to go live, switched on.
They are, Chair. Thank you.
Right, welcome to the first Economy and Infrastructure STC of the year. Item 1 on the agenda is any apologies for absence.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Disclosures of personal interest. Stuart.
It's working now. Brilliant. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to declare a personal interest in the main item in item 5. As an employee of the Pembrokeshire Trust, I just wanted to give an example of how successful some of the investment had been. And I just want to note that on record.
Nobody else?
You're happy to remain though? Yeah.
Okay, we're straight on to approve the minutes. The first one is the meeting on the 10th of April, pages 1 to 3. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. Minutes as a whole. Okay, anybody good? Okay, that's been agreed. And the second one is page 4, which is the minutes on the 15th of May, which took about 2.5 hours, that meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Then the terms of reference, that's for information only. We've all had a copy and read them. And straight on to 5, which is a local economic development plan. And this is the update. I think we looked at it to 2023, I think it was. Okay, over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to bring this update to you. And just a reminder, I guess, that the local economic delivery plan is the Swansea version of the regional equivalent, which is adopted effectively at CJC level for South West Wales. So with the other neighbouring authorities, Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire and Neath Talbot. And that regional document and this subset have set the framework really for the helping to advise on the best way of using the likes of Shared Prosperity Fund and how to attempt to allocate the money to further the aims identified there. And I think one of the headlines we had in our minds in the team when we were helping to pull this together was trying to support the Wales we recognise, recognising that particularly that you as members, the issues that are being faced in communities by businesses and communities, to make sure that the economic strategy reflects that reality. So whilst you can do mega investments, there's different scales that are required, and hopefully this document reflects that. Normally I skim over a report, but actually Claire has put a lot of effort into this, and I want to also mention Claire James and Michelle Parfitt, who've within my team, who've worked really hard on working with all the partners to pull both the regional and this local document together. And you'll see as well, we worked constructively with the Regeneration Swansea external partnership, where we pulled together quite a wide range of stakeholders from higher and further education listed in the report, as well as the registered social landlords. There's quite a good, increasingly good representation from the private sector as well as Welsh and UK government officials taking part. And all these people are part of the fabric of the economy in the area, so it's really good to have those people there and contributing. We did take the regional strategy as a baseline with its missions, but effectively now this plan is now finalised and was approved by Cabinet in December 24. And the 3 missions, it's designed to keep it as simple as possible and as easy to understand. And it's probably in a slightly different order to the regional documents, because we put the net zero ambition as the principal one because of the corporate objectives of the authority and the importance it's placed on achieving the net zero ambition, but as well as the micro business base that we need to support and the experience of place. Those are the characteristics we feel represent South West Wales, and Swansea is arguably the principal city in the region. Reflects that in detail there. I won't go through the full table because I'm sure members have had a chance to read that, but one thing I'm really pleased to be able to bring to you, I guess, and it's probably useful in the context of any announcements coming out of the spending review at the moment on funding streams. What we agreed, Claire and I, to do in the report was reflect the update on how we've used the funding in line with the strategy. And if you look through the various paragraphs there of the way that Shared Prosperity Fund in particular has been deployed, and some of these are both regional and local. Business support, for example, is a regionally agreed agenda that is then tailored to each local authority area. We've been able, for example, through the Business Swansea Anchor project to provide carbon reduction grants, which are addressing Mission 1. The range of business grants that members will be familiar with, pre-start growth grants, etc., which will fill Mission 2. The Rural Anchor project also has been able to support various projects which do include energy grants in the rural parts of the county. General business support has also been made available, which again supports Mission 2. The innovation grant has been added in, and due to the flexibility of the programme, we were able to, on the basis we were getting requests that had an innovation content in them, we were able to adjust the grant programme in flight using delegation in order to add that into the programme. Gower College are leading the Skills for Swansea consortium, which is a partnership project addressing skills needs identified in the regional skills plan through the Southwest Regional Learning Partnership. The Pathways to Work Employability Anchor, which wraps around support around the Communities for Work Welsh Government project, again is providing further additional support across a series of strands, not just adult employment, but also youth entry points into employment. And you see there's over 2,800 individuals supported there. The Transforming County Anchor project was designed to wrap around the Welsh Government Transforming Towns programme to fill revenue gaps, because Transforming Towns is very good at providing capital, and Swansea is really successful in accessing that programme, but also things like meanwhile use programmes and other support initiatives which have been undertaken around the county have been possible because of the revenue support that SPF has enabled. Also, even the culture and tourism anchor, which again is supporting missions 2 and 3, the creative business sector and the vibrancy of place and the feeling in our communities that these are places worth coming to. And it's that combination of the 3 missions that makes the places we feel is the strength of this region that can help make it a success, that makes people want to come here. And we do know from anecdotes from inward investment inquiries that the sense of place and the skills base in the area and the nature of the supply chain even is all part of what makes Swansea and the region it sits in the place people want to come to. And supporting communities as well, whilst that may be perceived as something that's non-economic, it actually is. It is an economic matter. If a place has got confidence, that's a place where people want to set up. It's a place where people want to live. It's a place where people want to bring their activities. That's all really important. So right down to the coast activities that have provided measures to create positive opportunities within communities for people to get together and build their confidence and leave the house. There's something across all of those projects which link up and help empower individuals and places to improve the general economic performance of the area. And whilst it's small scale, the transmission from injecting the funding to stuff happening is the quickest it's ever been. And I was reflecting as I was driving down, actually, that it's interesting. I know it's interesting. Councillor Rice has declared an interest in a particular project which underpins this agenda, in as much as it's far easier now to respond to local need using this type of funding. It's far easier to link things up across the piece. And sorry, let's turn the volume off, I'm getting pinged. Somebody else wanting a grant. But the nice thing is that it's reaching all those places. The funding is getting into the where we want it to be, to actually creating and stimulating local interest and local activity and development, which hasn't always been possible through other funding mechanisms. And all that built together builds confidence in our communities, and that's really, really important. So hopefully that's reflected well in the economic delivery plan. It demonstrates that it's not just a document that sits on the shelf, it's an active document that we will continue to refresh, and hopefully in the context of what seem to be hopefully positive signals from the spending review, maybe we're able to go further with it. But it is a living document, and hopefully it underpins the other thing, I guess, is all the reports I've brought to you with my season pass are actually reflected in this document. So all of those activities, they're not just pepper potted things in isolation, they all hang together and they're growing the place as a whole. And if you consider this as reflected in Eastport Talbot, Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire as well, that's a really strong base for economic development in the region. I'll stop there, Chair.
Very much. Excellent. Any other officer want to add anything? No. No. Stuart?
Thank you, Chair. Really positive report. And as Paul just mentioned, I happen to work for an organisation that's benefited from it and seen how this approach on the ground has made a real difference. We had a relatively small investment, I think around £10,000, which has led to a turnover in the organisation, the employing staff, of £400,000 to £450,000, which is really beneficial, because it shows how small amounts of money can also make quite a big difference, and there are lots of different sort of impacts on that. I think it's really encouraging, the approach that's taken, and certainly if we have heard right from the announcements yesterday, if there's £211 million per year coming through from central government to be administered by local authorities, from what I can see, that's a really good move, because it means that we can continue to do the good things that are happening in here and what's hoped to happen in the future as well. A couple of things I just wanted to quickly touch base on. In terms of transitioning to net zero and the economy, I know that there's quite some interesting things, and I think I mentioned it probably 2 years ago, happening in places like Denmark and in Scandinavia, about how to make businesses more symbiotic and more circular in the economy sense, so that people's waste products become the requirement or supplies of the company. And I think certainly if we're looking at hydrogen and some of the other things that are happening over in SA1, there's a chance for us to make that a reality in Swansea. So I think we could probably have a success of something similar to the Kalundborg model in Denmark, which I think would be really useful. I think it's really encouraging that we're looking at getting more people trained in certain areas and targeting some of that to give a sense of skills and place as well, which I think is great. The tourism support has been good. Going forward, I think one of the connected communities, which is one of the key things, or growing or promoting areas. Again, we had an announcement yesterday to do with transport. Whilst I always welcome any investment wherever it is in Wales into public transport, it's just a real pity that none of that really seemed to get its way further than Cardiff West. So it's one of those circumstances where we haven't had a situation where you can have maybe some new railway stations in Swansea, which might lead to more economic development. I know that there's been muted cases for Swansea Parkway, Landor and Cocket in the past, which I think could be useful. But I mean, it's really encouraging, and what we're doing on a local basis, fully support, and anything that we can do as a group, or as I can do as an individual. I'm here to try and promote Swansea as a place to work and thrive and invest, basically.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. You mentioned a few things there that I know the leader and deputy leaders are fighting very hard to get those into our area, and I think there is a commitment for to have these hubs and new stations, but obviously that's not going to be done tomorrow. But it is on the cards, and hopefully we may have an input into that. Right, Mike?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Paul, in regards to the page 33, 35 of the report, but page 33, interpretation promotion of our edges. I know we recently launched the Heritage Trail up in Morrison recently, but there are obviously Lower Swansea Valley and that. But in regards to perhaps further afield, like I talked about, plus our interest within the heritage, castles we have across the city and county, and obviously Oystermouth. And then obviously going down towards the Gower, which is obviously a really hot spot for tourism, isn't it? Perhaps there's any sort of link that we can perhaps look at perhaps rolling out there down to that end of the city, and obviously involving perhaps other sort of groups that work within those communities to help promote these places of heritage as well.
Pleased to say, Mike, yes, there is that is on our list as part of the app. So David in the team who's pulled the app together has been working across the council at various other trails, including Oystermouth Castle and others, and working with those groups so that we can get those added into the app. So yeah, that's definitely on our agenda as part of this whole picture. Yeah, and that's working with cultural services as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just one thing, well, a couple of things from me is going through the report and looking at the headlines. It's great looking at the headlines and finding the general what we're going to do. I like to get in a bit deeper. You know, for example, objective 3.2, which is telling us empty shops in Swansea. You know, we could sit down and look at a plan of attacking that. I know we've gone a long way with 71, 72 Kingsway, which I remember RFD saying about 4 or 5 years ago, the only thing missing from the Kingsway is the rolls of hay or whatever rolling down the street. But that is changing very, very rapidly, where people are now looking for the empty shops around that area because of what's going to happen. Well, it's happening now in Kingsway, and when our staff move out of County Hall and they come into the city centre, then there's going to be a tremendous footfall, and people will want to open shops and things in Swansea. But that's the other part of that particular one.
Just to mention, I mean, that one of the things, because we've now got the broad package of business support available and the various small grant pots, we have had at least 20, if not more, empty shops filled across the county, both in the city centre and in the district town centres as well. And that's a mixture of they may get Welsh Government Transforming Town support for the building itself and the envelope of the building, and then we're either a pre-start grant to get them started so they could buy equipment to get started, or a growth grant so they can expand, or low carbon grants to put maybe solar panels on the roof to reduce their energy bills. So that package is kind of there, but yeah, discussion on how to refine that further and target particular empty shops would be welcome. Yeah, sure.
And obviously to let people know that they're there. And the other thing, moving on from that, was 4.17, which it says building a stronger, healthier and resilient city centre, which is a follow-on from the other headline that I just mentioned. And then moving on to objective 5.2, creating flourishing, accessible district and local centres, something we've been looking at over the years, and we may get into the work plan this year. Which obviously people like myself who really want this, because we are in the outlying towns and villages, which we are doing work there with regards CCTV and with regards Wi-Fi, but people don't know what we're doing. And this could be a way for us to move forward and even look at individual towns and villages individually, because not everyone is the same.
So just as well as the city centre placemaking plan, we do have desk-based versions of placemaking plans for for 7 of the principal district town centres. So certainly Mumbles, Morriston, Clydach, Ponstilice, Sketty. I'm going to forget some now, but there's 7 in total of the principal district centres, and they're along the same lines, and they're also about guiding the way that we create funding packages to support. So there is potentially that opportunity looking forward to what has worked okay and where we can refine that, and looking quite carefully at what's preventing people doing things so that it's a bit more of an enabling position. But the package we've got is already spending in all of those places, both transforming towns money from Welsh Government as well as some of the other SPF support we've had. So yeah, that is a valid thing to look at. And there's an action plan attached to each of those documents. So that is the only constraint probably is resource to do them all to the same level at the same time. But that doesn't prevent us investing as we go along either, based on the feedback from local members, which is the way we're operating at the moment. But happy to look at that.
Right, and last for me is the Swansea Local Delivery Plan, the Action Plan, version 1. Does that mean we got a version 2?
Yes, well, it'll be constantly refreshed. Is the idea of that? So it's a living document, so it'll need to be refined as we learn more and as things develop.
Good. Anybody else? Anyone online? No. Thank you very much, Paul. Very informative as usual. And yes, your season ticket has been renewed. And because you're a valued member of this committee, you're having it for free. Yeah. Thank you again. So we've gone to 6, which is the work plan. And we've got discussion. So I'll open it up first before I come in as well. So has anybody got anything, suggestions I can put to the cabinet members and the leader? Stuart?
So, Chair, just to pick up a couple of points that you made, I thought they were very good, and there would be good work items for us, and that's concentration on the outerlying business districts, the local communities. I mean, that would be a really good thing to do. And then maybe to look at what we've already achieved and what we're planning to achieve with heritage, in terms of bringing heritage forward as a tourism factor and an economic regeneration factor. I think both of those would be good things. I think we've got achievements in each of those and things that we could achieve as well. So I think it would be good to do a reflection on what's been achieved and what can the next steps be. I mean, it picks up Mike's point about castles. I've always thought that we've got an amazing castle in the city centre. Wales has got more castles than anywhere else in the world, and I think the city centre castle would be a good thing to look at and see how it could be used, how it could celebrate the other castles which are in the area as well.
Good. I'll take the heritage away to a cabinet member, whether this would be the right committee first of all, because I don't know. I'll put anything on, I will, but whether it's the right place for it to come. Anybody else? Yeah, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have messaged you already, as you know, but economic development in sort of rural Gower, including, potential development opportunities and tourism forming part of that as well. I think that's worth us looking at.
Is that it, Will?
I can give you a much longer list if you want, Chair, but I don't think it'll.
Well, you could have. I could have thrown some out then, couldn't I?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I've got it down here word for word, but it does start off with the economic development, which you could pick up at any of the economic development reports we get. Because if we concentrate on what you were saying, then other people will be saying, well, why aren't we concentrating on the other sides? Anyway, we'll go through the work plan and see where we end up with it, right? So,
okay.
I've spoken with Paul before the meeting and with David Hopkins, and I've spoken with the leader, and it's just most of our plan is carrying on from last year, where we've done a placemaking strategy. Well, now there's placemaking plan, which is the next step. That is part of our work plan. Destination management plan that would come in, and that would take up the things we discussed with hotels and where we got shortages for tourism in Swansea. Then we got the Tower Riverside strategy, which we look at every year because it's a moving beast all the time, and all depends how much money Paul gets, how far we move forward. But this year, cabinet member wants us to look at waterways, which is linking. Apparently, the Fenrod Lake links up with it, and then linking onto the canals that we've got. So this is something new that we could look forward to. We may benefit from a site visit. We're looking into that now, because for this committee to have site visits, there's a lot of people got to say yes. Update then on the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is another moving thing, and then speaking to highways, And Andrew Stevens, he wants us to put in the future of road resurfacing with Bob Fenwick, because apparently the materials are moving forward quicker than what we are. So it would be good to have that report and see which is the next steps and if they're better than what we're doing now. I've also got Swansea Bay strategy. That was quite a good discussion last year and the year before. So we'll take that away to have a look at that as well. And I've also got in commitment to invest in our towns and villages, which is covering what we've just been talking about. I put this in, so more likely it'll be thrown out because I put it in, and that's the new ferry service link between Swansea and the south of England. So whether the leader wants us to take that anywhere, that's just one I'd be putting to him. And then the regional working hubs, which has been spoken elsewhere, and I don't think anybody's looked at it. But those are my, well, the top ones are the ones I've spoken to. The ones from Swansea Bay down, I haven't spoken to anybody about. So, okay, are we happy to take that away? And then I'll speak obviously with the cabinet members and officers to drop them into the right months, because I don't want to put something for next month and they find out a week before that they're not ready. So we'll see which one can be ready for the next month, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, are we happy with that? Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. And we've got the date of our next meetings. They're every 6 weeks. At 2 o'clock. Are we all happy with 2 o'clock? Okay. And that's it for today. Thank you very much.